Hello, I'm Toycat, and there are 34 features found inside of the Spring to Life update, and today I'm going to show you every single one of them. From the very obvious features you'll probably see in the trailers and marketing material, to the slightly less obvious ones, like the fact that villages have changed entirely, the same is true for dogs, and even the weird features you might not spot without a video like this, because grass has gone through some very odd changes, and the same is true for foxes. You'll really question how it ever was the way it was before, but today let's go into the 1.20.1.70 Spring to Life update and explain every single feature, starting with the wildflowers. These are a really nice simple one to explain because you can find them in birch forests and meadows. They're found in groups of up to 4 right here, and they can be placed down in exactly the same way. These are functionally the same as the pink petals from the cherry grove, except they are yellow instead, and indeed that means you can craft them just like you could craft those into yellow dye should you want to. Do you want to? That's up to you. Speaking of things you might want to do, leaf litter. Leaf litter can be smelted using leaves. This is actually pretty cool in my opinion. If you have a ton of leaves in your world, you can simply throw them into a furnace and get yourself some leaf litter. But what's even better is you can use leaf litter as a fuel, so if you want to turn leaves into leaf litter, you can use leaf litter as the fuel to do so. Now this is horribly inefficient, you'll actually end up losing leaf litter doing it, but if you really want XP at a very, very low cost, this might be something for you. And yeah, this also works like the pink petals, but interestingly, you cannot use bone meal to grow them because it's not an alive plant, whereas wildflowers, of course, are an alive plant, so will continue to growing. Very, very fun fact. Speaking of fun facts, let's also just briefly mention the fact that there is, in fact, a tint to this, so when you go to a pale garden, it will go slightly grey, and many other biome colours will change this, which is really, really cool and great for people making custom biomes and maps and stuff. Speaking of custom biomes and maps and stuff, if you are out on a custom world, you might enjoy the Lodestone, but previously it was so expensive to craft. This was the recipe until literally today. You needed 8 chiseled stone bricks, which are already kind of weird to find, and a netherite ingot. 1/9 of a netherite block was the cost to get one of these, making it absurdly expensive, and this is a real flex, but now you can just use iron. This means that the block is effectively usable as decoration if you want to, even more so because the fourth feature is that you can now find new generated loot in portal chests, and you know what it is? It's a 2/3 chance to find 1 to 2 lodestones. So I got 1 in this case, you might find 2, but more ruin chests than not will now have these because, again, I think that's kind of wild personally. Speaking of kind of wild, the particles for falling leaves are now real in every biome. We used to have these in the cherry groves and indeed the pale garden. The 2 newest types of trees added, in other words, did have these little petals, but you'll now find them under every other single type of tree, which I think is best shown by the elements animation of a villager running into them. The fact that, I think that's an absolutely beautiful way to explain that, yes, the world is going to have a little bit more ambience now, and that is something that will stick with us. Speaking of ambience, let's talk about bushes. So it's funny, I used to say bush, pronounced it exactly how it's written, and people said, no, Toycat, that U is pronounced ooh. So I said boosh, and people were like, no, Toycat, you gotta pronounce it like the president. And I guess that makes sense, actually, that oh yeah, one of the most famous bushes is Jeb Bush, and he's probably the second most famous Jeb in the world after your boy. So anyway, the block bush, what a crazy way to say it, can be found in plains, cold windswept biomes, rivers, frozen rivers, and birch forests. What can you do with them? You can look at them, and they're very, very pretty, you could argue. You can't break them with your fist, though. You're going to need to get a Silk Touch pickaxe, or Silk Touch any tool will do just fine here, or you can use shears to do precisely this. This is exactly the same as it is for a lot of different flowers in Minecraft, but yeah, if you have Silk Touch tools, you can pick up all of the bushes that you want. It feels weird to say. Speaking of things that feel weird to say, you can also get Firefly Bushes, and these are really wonderful because in the night, they emit these firefly particles. Fireflies have finally come to Minecraft, maybe not in the way we wanted, but I think in a delightful way nonetheless. They do also emit a light level of 2 for what it's worth, so they will stop mobs from spawning. Between these blocks right here, mobs can't spawn on this block because this is a light level of 2, making this a light level of 1, meaning that mobs can't spawn immediately around a Firefly Bush, and I'm just saying, I've got an idea for a survival project already. I'm feeling like I could do something really silly with these, and you better believe that's going to be my plan. Speaking of my plan, you can also use bone meal on both of these items, and it will generate the same plant next to it. It's interesting. I played this update on the Java edition just to see any differences, and it turns out this is actually true there. Even though it doesn't work for most plants on Java, you can still do it just like that, and so fun fact, it will keep working until there are no more valid spaces for you to grow your bushes or Firefly bushes into, which in this case includes gravel. little fun fact. Speaking of fun facts, desert features. So, yeah, if you are a fan of the meal that you have after your little meal, you know, the sweet little ending, you might love the update they've made to this biome, because there is now 2 brand new blocks. There is short and tall grass. If you bone meal short grass, it becomes tall grass. If you bone meal tall grass, it creates short grass. Isn't that beautiful? You can also use dry grass as fuel. By the way, I think it's got the same exact rules as the bush, where if you want to grab it, you're going to need to use a silk touch, or indeed, obviously the shears. But yeah, let's go ahead and throw it into our furnace, proving that it will allow you to turn your sand into glass using just the things you find in a desert. I actually really like that. It's a nice little upgrade. I think it's very, very fun. And you know what else I think is fun? The Cactus Flowers. If you have a cactus farm in your world, you might want to change the design. You don't need to. They've made sure of that is true. But if you want to, there is now a chance, a 25% chance, to get one of these on top of your cactuses. This is really wonderful if you ask me, and it's also wonderful that you can grab them with your fist, because it's such a pretty block that can go basically anywhere in your world and really add some extra life to it. So yeah, if there are less than 3 cactus blocks, your chance is actually 10%, and if it goes to its 3rd block, then your chance is 25%, and that is how you get these wonderful things. If you want, there's some fun things you can do with these. Actually, you know, can you bone meal them on the ground? You cannot. You have to harvest them naturally. Bone meal won't help you here, and yeah, they're very, very cool for, like, look at this. You can place them any block with a center of support, so you can put them on a fence, or indeed, you can also have your bees pollinate them. What's not to love? Oh, you could also craft them into pink dye, and they can also be picked up by Enderman. And so let's show you the fact that if we've got some of these, like I should have kept with me, you can also throw them into a composter, which I would not necessarily recommend, but if you had them anyway, you could do that. I think leaf litter is one block you might choose to do that for, because of just how common it is in your world, but I digress. Speaking of digressing, we now have ambient desert sounds. Groups of sand and terracotta now play ambient sounds. They also play windy sounds in deserts and badlands, and if you have a dead bush on sand, it will now play ambient sounds. So this is something interesting, because this is now saying there are desert sounds, but they're not tied to the biome under which you might choose to build your house. If you remove all of the sand from a desert, imagine doing that. Imagine how silly that would be. But if you removed all of the sand from your desert would no longer have the sounds, because it's where the blocks are that affects it. So if you bring enough dead bushes into your house, you can bring the ambient noise with you. Speaking of ambient noises, spawning changes in deserts. Oh no, it looks like I forgot to bring a camel into my desert, because they now naturally spawn here. It used to just be, I mentioned this to a lot of people in my life, and they're like, but didn't camels already spawn in deserts? No, camels used to only spawn in villages, but look at that. Oh look, he's actually magically here. Isn't this wonderful, the command ability we have? Anyway, so you can now find camels just naturally in the desert, and so if you want to ride a mob that isn't a horse, you don't have to hope that you find a desert village, which they're not uncommon, but they're still annoying to find sometimes. You can just grab one of these, and that is a delight, even for me, who put a lot of work into making sure I could get camels by going to so many desert villages, because I like the world improving. Speaking of the world improving, this is something you will see dozens of times over. I do want to just quickly point out that, yeah, there are brand new variants for the chickens, the cows, the chicken, the pigs, as well as technically the sheep. But realistically, that means that you can find cold variants in cold biomes and hot variants in hot biomes for all of these mobs. I want to show you this as quickly as possible. So here are pigs, here are cows, here are chickens, and here are sheep. Nice and fast. Those are the variants. Do you want to see them again? Chickens, cows, and pigs. I think they look really good in each of the variants, and what's really interesting about them is something that might be unintuitive, because you might assume that, like villagers, the animals that you breed are based on the biome that they're in when you breed them, but no, these are actually just different species of animals that happen to spawn there, as best proven by the fact after this next one, because did you know they've also changed the model? For the cow, the mooshroom, and the other mooshroom, they now have an extended snout and an entirely updated texture. So previously, I'll show you an old mooshroom on the screen. You can see how it wouldn't have this snout protruding, just like this, and now you can see the snout's poking out. Isn't that fun? Speaking of fun, yeah, if you have, there are 2 brand new types of eggs, the brown egg and the blue egg, and if you have these eggs, no matter where you hatch them in your world, they'll grow into a desert chicken, or they'll grow into a cold chicken. This is regardless of what biome you're in. You can see we're in the same biome, and that is a really, really fun way to make sure that you get new chicken types. Also really fun, they've updated the cake and the pumpkin pie crafting recipe, so you can use them. Oh, So you can actually craft them using the brand new eggs if you want to. You're going to have to trust that I did it there. And also you can see that the pumpkin pie is exactly the same. Blue egg or brown egg, it doesn't matter which one you have because you can still craft a pumpkin pie. Something I think that is absolutely delightful. Speaking of delightful, trading changes. They've made a lot of changes to villages, and let's talk about exactly what those are. So first things first, we have a weird change that you might not have seen coming. Paper and glass pane trades now lock after 12 uses instead of 16. Glass panes are a particularly abusable one, so I understand that, but paper is a bit of a surprise. If you trade paper 12 times in a row, it will lock. If you trade glass 12 times in a row, one of the most valuable and easy to come by trades because you can buy glass, it will lock after 12 times, which means you can really only trade about 11 times a day. This is a surprising change. Why is it important? Well, because the cartographers are going to be having a lot more trades. You can still get the old trades, by the way. You can find, so you can still, if you want to, like with this guy right here, you can still buy Ocean Explorer maps or indeed Trial Chamber Explorer maps, but you're not guaranteed to find both like you used to. This is an Ocean Explorer map. Oh, and this guy's also an Ocean Explorer map. Are you going to give me a Trial Chamber map, maybe? There we go, Trial Explorer map. So they're not guaranteed, which is an interesting change. You might need multiple cartographers to find a Trial Chamber map, just like I did. But also, interestingly, the Woodland Mansion Trader map has now been changed from a Journeyman trade to a Master. You don't find it at level 3, you find it at level 5, which is quite a bit harder, if I do say so. Speaking of things I do say so, let's take a look at the new Explorer maps. So this is a very fun custom painting we've got to explain it. Take a second to think about it. There is now a law about which villagers know where other types of villagers are, because the hot scale, and indeed the wet-dry scale, means that every village knows 3 other types of villagers. I mean, technically speaking, in some cases it's 2, but what's interesting is as a result of this, when you are in a type of village, there is a chance of you getting a map to another village, and that village type is based on the one you're in. So inside of the plains villages, I can find taiga and savannas, and so here is my Savannah Village Explorer map. If I follow this in the right direction, no, they still haven't fixed maps on Bedrock, don't ask me why. It has been many updates and the bug has been reported and they did it with no good reason, but what's interesting about this is the fact that, yeah, I can now follow this map and eventually I will find a Savannah village. The same is true for a Tiger village, and this is very, very fun. Speaking of very, very fun, there is also a brand new jungle village and a brand new swamp village explorer, and these are great because they'll help you locate jungle temples and swamp huts. This is actually nuts if you ask me. Also, something really strange that I briefly mentioned is that banner offers have got specific colors per biome. So in the desert, you can only get those colors, those for the plains, those for the savannah. By the way, fun fact, you can use custom emojis even inside of books, something you might not have known. Speaking of things you might not have known, the Wandering Trader changes have been revamped entirely, and here is the gist of how. First, there are new buying offers available, which means you can sell items to the Wandering Trader and get emeralds. That's right, the trade deficit has finally been addressed. Instead of me having to spend all of my emeralds with him, I'm no longer unfairly subsidizing the Wandering Trader. He gives me emeralds back now, and also I can now buy logs for 1 emerald. This is a change that most people will never use, but as someone who's about to do a hardcore super flat, let me tell you, this is immensely useful. I am excited to take advantage of this trade. I'm also excited that there is a trade for an enchanted pickaxe. I don't know if I'd ever use it, but it's fun. You can also buy invisibility potions. This is something we know the Wandering Trader uses himself, so it's cool to see. And also, there are brand new trades, because if you have emeralds, like I have far too many of, I can now buy Firefly Bushes, and I can buy Wildflowers, and of course I can buy Tallgrass too, alongside these mangrove logs and these things here. Also, you can sell far more trades and buy far more things. It's a very, very wonderful change. But yeah, here are the other changes they've made. There are certain things that have gone down in price, certain things that have gone up in quantity, and indeed, I think it's very exciting in general. But also it's exciting that there is new generated loot in the villages. That's right, on top of changing how the villager worked, this guy, and on top of changing the Wandering Trader, they've changed how villagers themselves work, because you can now find bundles in village chests. This is a delightful change, and the only thing that I'm going to warn you now is do not ask how it is the villagers crafted the bundle. Do not ask how it is that the villagers got their hands on strings, because there is a very easy source of it in villagers. But you just assume that these guys are vegetarians who aren't going to do that. But I know what you did. I know how you crafted that bundle. I know you haven't been killing spiders. I know what you're up to, buddy. Speaking of things that I know that they're up to, clearly we know that Mojang are dog people after this update, partially because they updated all of the textures for the spawn eggs. This is something I have gushed about so many times. If you play creative, it's so much easier to find your correct spawn egg, including the wolf, by the way. Look, I could just immediately find it up there. I don't have to remember its colors, but the other reason we know that Mojang are wolf people, by the way, the gay wither spawn egg did not get updated. Very, very sad. I do not know why they would update every spawn egg but this one, but they clearly forgot to do it. Speaking of things they forgot to do, there are now sound variants for each of the wolves in Minecraft. I could show you using a giant pen of all of the wolves here, and I kind of wanted to do that, but here instead are some fun commands to show you each of the sounds. Fun, right? So that is the 34th and final feature inside of the Spring to Life update, but it's not the last actual change. Minecraft makes a lot of changes and updates, and these aren't necessarily always direct features, but they are worth mentioning regardless, and let's start with the first ones here, because the most interesting one is to do with donkeys. This can spawn naturally in savannas, and then grass, which is found in savannas, which just works strangely. Again, this feels like it might even be a mistake, because here's what it sounds like if you mine a block of dirt. You might not have even heard that, so I'm going to mine dirt now. Did you hear that? And now I'm going to mine grass. Did you hear that? It felt like there was a different there, right? It felt like something went a bit strange and different there. In fact, let's grab my Silk Touch pickaxe, and let's show you the difference between the sounds for placing them. This is the sound for placing dirt, and this is the sound for placing grass. Why is it so quiet? I'm genuinely confused about whether that's because, well, like, grass obviously dampens the noise, or if it's a mistake, but they have decided to do it. It is on the changelog. Speaking of things that they've decided to do, foxes now take damage from lava instead of only from fires. And yeah, this is a monstrous one to test. I don't know how anyone ever found out about this. What were you doing, guys? But yeah, now foxes will die in lava. Woo! I mean, it's good that Minecraft are fixing bugs. They've also fixed bugs to do with sea pickles. They can be placed on any block with center support. I don't know that this makes any sense. I don't know that these sea pickles should be able to be placed on the top of this, because clearly none of them are touching it, but, you know, good job to Mojang anyway. Also, beacon beam rendering is no longer limited by vertical distance. That's right, you might hear this and think, oh, I heard about this from a Java video. No, it's not. They haven't fixed beacons. I've got a beacon on the other side of that island over there that you can't see because it's more than 64 blocks away, but I can see this beacon, which I previously couldn't before this update, because it's down there at Y-64, 128 blocks below, so now you can see beacons from any vertical distance, but not any horizontal one. They're looking into fixing this, but they haven't done it, and let's be honest, they've been looking into fixing this one for a while too, and how's that going? Honestly, there are some Minecraft bugs where it just seems like they are broken and there is no one out there to fix them, which is sad, but an ultimate part of a game that is this big. Speaking of a game this big, pufferfish are now hostile towards axolotls and all non-aquatic mobs instead of only players, so this is kind of cool. Look at this. Oh, wow, that's strange, huh? Speaking of things that are strange, there are also some fun, strange features for mobile players. The filter profanity option is now available. There's a camera perspective button in the HUD. This is so useful to have as an option now. And funnily enough, we also have these UI changes, which you might benefit from, and that is the end of the features which are definitely spring to life ones. The reason I say that is because there's an interesting change that Minecraft have been making recently, where at the last minute, on the final moment of the release, there have been some changes to what was in the update and what they've decided to release. Sometimes this has been for the positive, or at least adding features like with emotes, and opposite times we've seen them remove a feature at the last minute, so I'm going to cut the video here now if they didn't add them to the game. But if you're watching right now, that means that either you're here in the first 30 minutes, or it means that these features did finally make it, because add-ons will no longer disable achievements. This is genuinely game-changing. You can now have add-ons on your long-term survival worlds. I wouldn't recommend a long-term survival world, but you can put add-ons on your survival worlds and earn achievements from them. This can actually benefit you and get you easier achievements, or it can just mean you don't have to worry about a, air quotes, non-legit world. And the other one is that you can now pause the game. That's right, I'm going to throw this on the ground to prove it. I'm now pausing the game, and look, it's not spinning. If there was a mob trying to attack me, it also couldn't, and if I was in midair, I would stay right there. This is such a cool feature that Minecraft has needed forever, and I'm so excited to see them adding it. Again, if you are watching this part of the video. If you're not watching this part of the video, then I guess we're back now. Okay, so that means that we have gone through every single feature inside of Minecraft Bedrock Edition 1.20 1.70. Minecraft has many more updates in the pipeline, such as 1.20 1.80, and there is of course the next game drop of the year, and if you want to learn about all of those, make sure to subscribe to this channel because we go through each of them in this series, where we go through every major update as it releases and all of the features. This world was put together by KMB, and it did utilize quite a few custom paintings and custom emojis. Let me know if you'd like to see a tutorial for how to use those, because I think a lot of people have been really, wowed by how to put it in the world. It's something that's surprisingly simple to do, and if now we can add add-ons into worlds, maybe it's something you might consider doing for yourself, just to add a little fun to your signs or to your books. So let me know if you want to see it, or if that would be a terrible idea, because I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Dear? You know, what rhymes better? I'll see you in the next one. Peer! That's right, you are my peer. Because we both love Minecraft, I assume. Goodbye.